in my age circle.
Don't take a deep breath. Elsewhere in the division, the Browns quarterbacks continue to compete for the starting spot, and they were out at mandatory minicamp today. Shedeur Sanders spoke this afternoon about his comfortability in a crowded Browns quarterback room.
It's just a mindset, it's just an adjustment. You got to go and understand the situation that you're in and be able to approach that and get the best out of it. So you could view things as you're not getting reps in a negative way, or you could view it as, okay, when's my time to get out there? So there's no excuses, because when you get out there, nobody cares how many reps you got. Whenever you get in the game, nobody cares if you took a snap before. You know, like, they care about production. So that's the main thing. When you get out there, you got to be able to produce.
I like that. Well said by Shedeur. Our Browns reporter, Daniel Oyefusi, was out at practice today. Daniel, what did you see from the quarterbacks with your own eyes?
Yeah, Laura, it was a really busy day for the rookies, Dillon Gabriel as well as Shedeur Sanders. Coach Kevin Stefanski gave them the bulk of the reps in team drills, and they continue to show growth in this Browns offense, throwing for deep touchdown passes in team drills. Now, after practice, we spoke to both rookies who said that they're trying to learn any way they can in the crowded quarterback room, whether that be on the field, walkthroughs, virtual reality, and even picking the brains of the veteran quarterbacks in the room, such as 18-year vet Joe Flacco. Shedeur Sanders said, "I'd be a fool not to get insight from a former Super Bowl MVP." Now, we also spoke to Sanders about the lack of practice reps that he's gotten at times as seemingly QB4 on this depth chart, but Sanders said that there's no excuses for him. He's just looking to take advantage of every opportunity he gets. Now, when I asked Sanders what his goals were for this summer, he said he's not worried about the quarterback competition that looms over every practice. He told me, when it's my time to play, it's my time to play.
Really interesting. Thanks, Daniel. We'll keep an eye on that. That quarterback battle is going to be one that we will not be able to ignore. We appreciate your time. Tim, you brought something up even right after the draft, I think, about just how difficult it is to manage the reps with such a crowded room. In your opinion, with 4 quarterbacks sharing these reps, can Shedeur win this job?
To start the season, no, I don't believe so, Laura, because, you know, the inside track on the reps are going to go to Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. And even some of the reporting now about how reps have gone with Flacco and Pickett kind of on one end of the field, and then the other end, you know, kind of a separate group for, you know, Gabriel and Sanders. But when you do that, it's not apples to apples in terms of the competition. You know, it's the pro version of varsity and JV, you know, when you do it that way. So there's not enough time, you know, to give all 4 guys like a legitimate shot to be the week 1 starter. Now, it doesn't mean, you know, guys won't eventually get their chance. It just means to start the season, that's how it's going to go. So until, you know, you're getting reps with Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku and guys like that, that's not, you know, you're not in the mix. So, look, but I would just point out what he's saying is exactly correct about even if you get 0 reps, you're expected to play well. That's a perfect posture to have for a young quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was handling the questions really well there, and that's good to see. Thanks, Tim. We got more come your way here on time since signing with the Steelers.
Some things improved a little bit where I felt like I could fully be all in here with the guys. I had a great conversation with Mike throughout the entire process, and Omar. But it's good to get that done and get behind us. I don't need it. For my ego, I don't need it to keep playing. A lot of decisions that I've made over my career and life from strictly the ego, even if they turn out well, are always unfulfilling. But the decisions made from the soul are usually pretty fulfilling. So this was a decision that was best for my soul. And I felt like being here with Coach T and the guys they got here and the opportunity here was the best for me, and I'm excited to be here.
Soul searching. Okay, Adam, what can you tell us about Rodgers' first day with the Steelers?
Well, it started out with him delivering a message of similar note to what he told reporters later in the day, Laura. He told his team after weeks of speculation about when he would sign and whether he would show up, that he was fully committed, all in, ready to go to work and be there with the rest of his teammates. And that work began right away today with his first practice as a Pittsburgh Steeler. This essentially was his onboarding. These few days of mandatory minicamp are his version of orientation, where he can begin to work with his teammates, learn his coaches, see the offense, experience his new city, his new home. But that was what he told his team this morning. He's all in and ready to get to work with them.
Chef, it's a great point. You know what I feel like every offseason? I feel like Aaron Rodgers is that boyfriend that wants to come back in the summer and reel you back in because he got a lot of good trips planned. And I feel like it keeps happening to me. And this Pittsburgh thing, as you all know, we've been on before. I've been directly opposed to it because I thought it would keep Pittsburgh in the same situation that they've been in, that we've talked about ad nauseum a minimum of the last 5 years. Obviously, they made a draft pick to get Kenny Pickett and thought that he would be their long-term answer. So I got to give them credit for that. But my question is, what does this do for your organization if you don't win big? And I'm not sure. I'm never going to write Pittsburgh off. They made the playoffs with guys like Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So I think they can get into postseason play. Therein lies my conundrum. How far do you get in the playoffs if you're not going to get to a Super Bowl that causes yourself to be picking in the 20s or the late 20s once again? And do you have to go into another offseason trying to figure out how to maneuver to potentially get your franchise guy? Obviously, Aaron's age and where they are as a franchise brings about a lot of those questions for me.
Listen, I think when you look at it, though, 1 year, $13.5 million for a guy that, you know, I guess 3 years ago was dominating the NFL. Look, Marcus, you're right. Like, there's no guarantee that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Aaron Rodgers, the MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers. But he does bring hope at a minimum this time of year. You know, hope that Mason Rudolph doesn't bring you right now. So, or Will Howard, like, doesn't bring you right now. So I think you have that. And I think the fact that you're getting him on a deal that is, quite frankly, like, much lower than I was anticipating on a 1-year deal for Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, in this world where, you know, quarterbacks, you know, on long-term contracts are making, you know, over $50 million, to get Aaron Rodgers on a 1-year deal less than $15 million, and he could easily throw 32 touchdowns and 6 picks and give your team a chance, like, I actually think that's pretty good living for Pittsburgh.
Tim, I don't disagree with you. I think we talk about two different situations. I'm focused on more the prism from Pittsburgh, right? Like, I think Aaron will be fine with Pittsburgh. He actually has some great moments, or really good moments, with the New York Jets. My thing is this: do you think Will Howard is going to benefit from Aaron being in the building and he potentially becomes your franchise quarterback? Because the reality is, Aaron is not going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers into the future. More than likely, this is a 1-year deal. And we've seen them in this position before. My question is more about Pittsburgh and their plan going forward, so we not having this conversation when Aaron Rodgers decides to leave or retire or it doesn't go well. But it's really not based on him. I think they got a really good situation with Aaron.
No, listen, I think it's legitimate. I mean, look, I don't think Will Howard's going to end up being their answer anyway, which is why he was drafted where he was drafted. But I think ultimately, when you look at kind of how this affects the team, look, they're never going to be bad enough with their coaching and their defense to be picking at the very top. So when that's the case, you're always going to be searching for a quarterback some other way.
By the way, Swagoo, you said that Aaron Rodgers is like that boyfriend that keeps coming back in the summer. He's married now. He confirmed that he's married today, so it can't be the boyfriend anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Well, no boyfriend no more.
Swagoo.
Yeah.
Swagoo. In the next commercial break, he's going to be looking up that T. He didn't say who he's married to, though. All right, let's talk about T.J. Watt. Adam, T.J. Watt is not at Steelers minicamp. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Laura, he is entering the last year of a 4-year contract that's scheduled to pay him just over $21 million this season. And in an offseason where we've seen pass rushers get paid, starting with Max Crosby in Las Vegas, Myles Garrett in Cleveland, each player becoming, at that time, the highest paid defensive player in NFL history, T.J. Watt now wants to get paid himself. He's skipping mandatory minicamp. That's his statement by saying, I'm not happy with where talks over a new contract are at right now. He's staying away from the team. And who would have ever have thought that on a day where Aaron Rodgers would have his very first practice with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he wouldn't be the biggest news story of the day in Pittsburgh.
I love it.
Boogie, 40. I ain't talking about a 40 you drink. I ain't talking about the liquor. I ain't talking about 40 weight motor oil. I ain't talking about a 40-yard dash. I'm talking about 40 million a year. And until TJ Watt gets that conversation with Pittsburgh, don't show up. He, to me, has been the best defender in the NFL for like the last 3 years. Obviously, he dealt with some injuries, but when you talk about his production, what he means to this football team, as me and Tim just talked about, as they've gone about trying to figure out a quarterback position, make no mistake about it, he's been more of a catalyst for this football team winning games late than anyone else on this football team. So I think he should be having this conversation now about making half of what Myles Garrett is making, and the production matches up with some of the best historically. 40.
Yeah.